Hi, thank you for joining me for today's video, and once again I'm using Pretty Little Studio Love is Kind for this layout. It's 2 3x4 photos of my kids years ago in 2013, so 12 years ago now. We were having an extension built at the back of the house and we'd lost our kitchen temporarily, so we went to a local little chef restaurant for breakfast. And this was them doing the colouring in and things that they provide you when you're there. So you can see here I'm just creating a background using some inks. I started off with scattered straw, watered down, and used my large brayer, and then I moved on to fossilised amber just to get a little bit of depth of colour and differential between the yellows. And I'm just making sure that I cover a lot of the area on the background. Some of this is going to be covered up by my photos. I know that frustrates some people, but it's all part of the process. But I'm just making sure that I'm bringing it out wide enough so that it's not all covered up. So now I'm going to map the photos onto white cardstock just to get that lovely crisp border. That makes sure that it stands out against all the pattern papers that I'm going to be adding. So just trimming that out using my scissors, and you can see I've chosen a title from one of the ephemera packs, and it says Heartwarming Memories. I just thought that was really apt for this. So just getting there, as I say, getting those photos matted onto white card just to get that lovely border, and then I'm going to use this gorgeous yellow with white hearts as my first mat on the photos. So the first mat, I'm going to mat them individually, just again to create some layers and texture on the background, and I will use my edge distresser to distress the edges of both of these mats just to create a bit of interest. Now you'll see as the video progresses I forget to distress the rest of the edges on the other layers that I create, but I'll just use my finger now to distress those. So almost there with the trimming. There we go, and now coming in with my edge distresser to get all of those edges just slightly roughed up, really, like I say, just to create a nice texture. And then I'll bring in some other papers to create further layers. Probably should have cut some of this out, shouldn't I? It's a bit boring watching me just distressing around the edges of a piece of paper. So bringing the background in now it's dry, and I can lay those out just to see how it will look on the background, and also check that I have created enough mixed media on the background so it doesn't all get covered up. So this is going to be my second photo mat, and I'm just cutting a piece that's wide enough to show on either side of the photos, and I'll map these both onto this one singular piece. And I'm just going to overlap the photos ever so slightly and offset them slightly again just to create a little bit of interest. So put the photo of James at the top because there's a little bit more of the table showing at the bottom of his photo. So that means I can tuck that behind the photo of Amelia without losing any interest in the photo. So that's going to sit like that, and that's where I should have distressed the edges but didn't. I think I was getting carried away with what I was going to do next. So now I've brought in this gorgeous peachy pink gingham, and I'm just going to create another mat for that to sit on, and I want to offset the photos against that mat. Again, it's just creating interest and movement. So they're going to sit like that. And then I'm going to bring in this lovely heart piece and just add a strip of that to the left hand side. Sorry about that, I must have knocked my desk and wobbled the camera there. So just trimming that down to size. I just want it slightly longer than the previous pieces, just to show all those different layers. I forget here how I'm going to layer it up, and I thought the photos were going to go on the right hand side of that, but I realised and shift it over to the left like that, and then that heart piece will go behind. So I do want to create some more mixed media on the background, so I'm not going to stick this down yet, but I wanted to get it all matted up so I could see how it was going to sit on that mixed media background. So this is one of our brand new stencils from Hey Little Magpie, designed by me, and this is called Geometric 1. And I'm just using that lovely pink, I think it's Worn Lipstick, which works perfectly with this collection, to add some stenciling just around the edges of that photo mat, really. But this is just a small geometric pattern, and it repeats really easily, so it's very easy to line it up and continue the pattern all the way around the page. I do like stencils that have a small repeating pattern because it makes them easy to use, just as background accents, really, just a pattern behind your photo mat. And you can see I'm using different pressure and different amounts of ink so that I get different tones on the background, so some darker and some lighter. And I'm just adding tiny little bits all the way around the page, using an almost dry brush so that it's barely visible, but you can just about see it, and it just means that it's not a stark white in the background. So bringing that mat back in and just checking, seeing if there's any more that I want to add. So I want to add a little bit to the bottom, and I will bring a little bit up to the top as well. And then this is one of the new border dies from Hey Little Magpie. It's the circle borders, and I'm just deciding how I'm going to sit that on the page. So I've cut it in scrap black cardstock, and at first I thought I was going to layer it over the papers on the left hand side, but in fact I use it as a shelf for the title to sit on, and it's separate from the rest of the photo, which isn't like me because I tend to keep everything touching so that it's all cohesive, but I really wanted to try something different today. So you'll see in a minute I move that out to the left and have it as a separate shelf with the title on. And I do like the way that looks. I raise the title up onto foam just so that it casts a nice shadow around that shelf, and the stark black looks really good against the mixed media background that I've created. So just popping that down here, and then like I say, the title is just going to overlap ever so slightly on foam pads. So first of all, I'm pulling out my 25mm foam pad from Sticks 2. These are sold on a huge roll. If you haven't watched me before, if you have watched me before, obviously you'll know this, but they come on a giant roll, and I just tear them into strips of 6 and keep them in this 4x6 photo box. So I've just covered the main part of the title with those Sticks 2 foam pads, and then I'm coming back in with the, I think they're 5mm foam pads, just to add some pads behind the word heartwarming, which is a little bit more delicate, just so that everything's nice and straight. So now I've brought in some of this ribbon. It's a ruched ribbon that we have in our Hey Little Magpie embellishment kits from time to time, and this is a gorgeous navy. It works really nicely with the colours in this collection, so I've decided to add a strip of that down the left hand side of that photo mat, and then I've just glued that in place with my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. So now I'm going to start using some of the ephemera pieces from this beautiful collection. So I'm starting with these frames. I didn't want to pull this piece out because I was worried it was just going to tear. Sometimes the die cutting doesn't work perfectly, so you just have to help it with a scissor. And I've added the frame, and then the insert piece is a journaling spot, and that works really nicely, so I'm going to add that as well. And I'm looking at how I positioned it there, and I really like that, but I did actually move it when I glued it down. It's terrible, I forget what I've done. By the time I pulled the frame out and started to add it, everything moves. So this is another ephemera pack, and I'm just going through this to see what else I can add. I thought that I was going to add a second journaling spot there, but I decided just to stick with the one. But I did pull out this lovely little black and white arrow, which is a nice addition, and then that little peach heart to go next to the title, and this word phrase that says cuteness overload, and I thought that worked really nice along the bottom of that photo. There's not a lot in the bottom of the photo. Again, it's mainly the table and some crayons that Amelia's working with, so it didn't matter that that title was overlapping that bit. So here's where I forget how I had the frame, so I end up pulling it out to the right and then adding the journaling spot underneath, tucked in more to the left. Just adding those other bits. And that heart at the top. And then into another ephemera pack. There are so many gorgeous packs in this collection. I did treat myself to rather a lot. So you'll see this collection being used quite a bit by me, but I just love it. I love the colours and the brightness of it. So I pulled out this little tab. I wanted to use it on the left of the photo again, but instinct just took it back to the top, so I didn't fight it too much. And a little butterfly sitting on that frame, and then I found this cloud, which I thought was cute. So I brought in one of the puffy clouds from the Hey Little Magpie embellishment kit, and I'm just going to layer that up just for a differential in texture and look. And it does layer up really nicely with that printed cloud there. So just adding some glue just to the centre of that butterfly, just so that the wings fly free. And then I'm going to go into the stickers and see what I've got here. So I wanted to use the black stickers on clear background. There are some gorgeous phrases here, so I'm just going to dot them about the page. If you've watched me for a while, you've seen me doing this before with my Ellie Studio stamps, but these stickers are a great way of doing this without all of the mess of stamping and having to clean stamps all the time. So that one that's gone underneath the title just says "This is us." And then I'm adding some more to the right hand side, and I've got little moments within the frame, and then "You're the best," "Better together," "Side by side," "Happy moments," "Growing up together," and "My sunshine." So all fairly generic and all work really nicely with pictures of the kids. And I just use them almost like confetti going up the right hand side of this page. And you can see how many you get. They're really reasonable. I think they're about £2.50 for the sheet, but you get absolutely loads. And they do quite a few of these little word phrases in varying colours. You've got some that are coloured background with white type, and then there are some that are coloured type on a white background, and then these clear ones. And then these stickers are the snow cone stickers. I love these little borders. So I'm just going to add a couple just to bring in a little bit more interest. So I've got that lovely blue scalloped one at the bottom there, and then I'm bringing in a yellow. It's almost like a mini rickrack underneath that space for the tab there. And then I realised I hadn't glued the tab down, so just adding a bit of glue there. Now I wanted to bring a heart to the left-hand side of that title. I just felt it was a bit too open, the space there, it needed something. So I'm choosing one of the hearts from the cut-apart sheet. These are gorgeous. There are two different heart cut-aparts in this collection, and I chose this lovely brightly coloured one. So really easy to cut out. And then again, I'm just going to bend it in the middle and add the glue just to the middle so that the left and right hand side sit free on the page. And I will add a couple of foam pads just to hold that in place so that it stays up. So just using those 5mm foam pads again from Sticks 2. And then I'm going into the little letter stickers. Gosh, I've lost my words today. And I decided on this pale pink for the main bit of the title. It says "Little Chef, Hey Doc," and it fits really neatly inside that frame. That's where we were, so that's why I wanted to add that there. And finally, I just wanted to add a few bits to that top left-hand corner where the tab is. I settled on this little flower. I just thought that looked really cute up there. So that's going to sit up there. And then I'm going to add some splatters using that worn lipstick ink again, just to finish off, just all around the edges of the page. And that's it done. So I hope I've provided some inspiration. Do check out this gorgeous collection by Pretty Little Studio. It will work really nicely with You Are My Sunshine as well. So I'm sure you'll see me doing that at some point in the near future. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye.